Good morning. Can you hear me? Fantastic. All right. Well, after those great presentations, I'm going to be more generic. Of course, Smart Nation is a huge project, and we are very happy to be involved and participate as Microsoft. But I'm also a user from DBS, so fantastic to know all of these good things about, how they're tracking me and my family here. All right. Probably from my accent, you will know that I'm not from Singapore. I'm from Mexico. I have 2 years here in Singapore, but I'm part of a community that's called CTOs, Chief Technology Officers. And you will say, well, it's a CTO. I mean, of course, we look at these big trends in technology, etc. But one characteristic of our community is that we start with policies before we start even discussing technology. So you will see that I'm trying to focus this conversation, of course, in technology a little bit, but I want to land it in some policies that I think that absolutely required to think about big data and citizens, etc. Okay, yes, we talked about hundreds, we talk about thousands, millions, trillions, zillions of devices, of sensors, of all of these different technologies that are already connected, and that, of course, there will be more. I think that the important thing on these mega trends, and this is Gartner, this is IDC, this is the industry, this is Microsoft, is that there's a huge demand of information, right? And therefore, there's a huge opportunity for the industry to participate and bring these solutions that are required in the market. So the mega trends also indicate that these trends are here to stay forever. That means that if we say big data, right, that is being created, that means that it lives already with us. It's just that we need big data, or we want big data to transform into information that is useful for our lives. So that's relevant, but it's also challenging to see that, and there's a picture of a cloud there, because everything in these technologies, and that's what we think, is going to be landing in a cloud platform, cloud technology. Several flavors of cloud. I don't want to discuss that. I think you should embrace all flavors of cloud, meaning private clouds, hybrid clouds, public clouds, and everything in between. So, but it's relevant to say that this technology is helping us glue everything together, right? So machine learning that you were discussing with Watson. Microsoft has also machine learning. Again, trying to put this big data into something that is worth, something that can change, that can help me in my business as a SME, or as a citizen, or as a consumer. But it's also true that we have these mega trends in one side, but in the other hand, we have a different set of expectations, right, from the citizens, which does not make the life easier from policymakers and governments, because we're expecting more, right? Also, the workers are expecting more. And we forget about the workers, but as public servants, and I was a public servant in Mexico 10 years ago, so I can talk a little bit about this. If you look at the next generation, next generation of workforce, the millennials, these millennials would like to go to government or private sector and use their same tools. And there's a bunch of studies that we have, and we can share them, the sources of information, where, I mean, if we bring these tools into our businesses, into our governments, these people, this young generation, these public servants will be productive, more efficient. They already know how to use the social networks. Okay, so how do we use social networks in our advantage, in our business, within the government space? So I think this is a topic that, it's not really well socialized, I think, but it's a relevant also issue that I think we should be looking for. And of course, our leaders, right? How can you react to policies? So how can you create new policies if you lack of information? And I really think that Smart Nation is in the right way, right? I mean, this is the best, and I would say in the region, the most proactive way I've seen to bring information, to the well-being of the citizens, elderly care, smart bills, smart homes, etc. All of these fantastic things for the well-being of the citizens are impressive. I guess that that's why we need smart everything, but we should not forget that smart is smart people first. So, megatrends, set of expectations that are changing. So what do we think about this topic then? So one of the centerpieces of everything I'm going to say from now on is we want the citizen in the center of the conversation. Or if I'm talking with SMEs, I would like the business in the center or the consumer in the center, right? And how the rest of the technologies and policies have to gravitate around that specific subject in the discussion. So we believe that we need to unlock the power of data. We think that data has to be democratized, right? And don't get me wrong, data scientists here, of course we need you. We need to model the right frameworks, the data sets, etc. But imagine that we can provide the right tools for the consumers or the citizens or SMEs so they can start using and creating data with different unstructured data structure, whatever data is available for them. That is what really will unlock this conversation to another level. So this is collecting data is an issue, data gathering, data analytics, and the outcomes expected. Right? Outcomes we could refer to this as an insight, right? After I gather the information, after I make some analytics or crunch some information there, okay, so what is the outcome for me, right? This is unlocking power data. So enabling the citizens, since we are talking about big data and the citizens in this conversation, very pragmatic approach here would be, what do we do with social analytics? What do we do with data visualization? A lot, of course, we have seen a lot in these 2 days. And what do I mean by beyond BR charts? Beyond what is the outcome? So let me share with you some examples here. So social analytics, we are tracking certain behaviors of millennials, of everybody in the net. And I'm going to show you an example later that crosses with social analytics and visualization that I think will make my example more real. But this is so important because the amount of data over there and is so complicated to get an insight if you don't visualize it. I think we all agree with this, that this has to be part of the equation of unlocking and empowering the citizen. Visualization has to be in the set of tools that we provide. I have an example. Can you click here in the page, please? So there's some very short. Please, thank you. So first of all, this is Excel, right? This is nothing, you already have it. And basically here what we're trying to do gathering information from data.gov.sg, which is available here in Singapore, we started very simple collecting information from population, and then we cross that information to the dengue cases, right, that we have here in Singapore. So we can see that, yes, there's that heat map in the center of those are dengue cases. But then what's very interesting is to collect information from social sentiments as well. So we're gathering information from Twitter, from Facebook, and then we can correlate information and say, okay, I mean, it seems that, yes, we are having some disappointment in some areas, right? And we can then cross information. So this is social sentiment, crossing information, visualization, very simple. I'm not a data scientist to do this. I did it myself. And we are using unstructured information, right? It's not this information. Data sets are unstructured. They're only divided by commas. So it's pretty cool, I guess. Yes, can we continue? All right, beyond charts. This is the third part, right? Social, behavior, visualization, and beyond charts. I think yesterday we said how important and relevant it is to make the right questions. Absolutely. There's a wonderful website called therightquestions.com. Right? I mean, actually, this gentleman over here that created this process actually has a consultant firm. And this is one of the things that we're trying to explore beyond technology. How do we teach, not only inside of Microsoft and our ecosystem partners, how do we teach? How do we help? How do we coach, right, our customers and perhaps citizens to make the right question? So natural language here is critical, and that's one of the things that we're using. Because it's still complicating to use some of these new technologies to make the right questions if you're not a engineer or a science rocket engineer. So we need to make it simple. That's I think the name of the game here. If you want to empower people, make it simple, right? So making the right question probably will be easier if you use your natural language in your language, right? Because also there's an issue here around language. So one of the things that machine intelligence is bringing is machine translation. Right? We're using it a lot. So probably, and you will probably have heard of it, but we released Skype Translator. So Skype Translator is real-time conversations and with different languages. I mean, we still don't have Khmer to Lao, right? Or Tagalog to Burmese, which is possible. With the computing power that we will have in some years, this will be possible real time, right? So then, if we focus on being simple, let's focus on natural language, in any language, not only English, and help coach, mentor. I think it's a huge opportunity. Our stakeholders to make the right questions. And the other critical component here, and I'm so delighted that the minister articulated this fantastically well yesterday around greater transparency. This is a real issue, right? Since they asked me to say, hey, who owns your data? I want to be provocative here a little bit, right? This chart is made by very intelligent lawyers that we work with here in the region in Asia Pacific, All's One. And they have mapped every country that you can imagine here in the region, right? In terms of privacy, privacy protection laws, in terms of maturity, right? Because here's the thing, right? You can have the best law, and if no one is enforcing the law, we have an issue, right? So when they ask who owns your data, you have to divide the question. You have to divide it. First of all, who has the ownership of that information, of that data? Because some of that data is protected, intellectual property protection in some of that. So first of all, we need to understand what are we talking about here. And of course, this is for your consideration, and you let me know if I'm totally crazy, but I'm not a lawyer, right? So the first part of ownership, I can understand. Privacy laws, then is law, right? How do I follow the law? Which we always need to follow the law. So we can divide the question in two and then get a much better angle on the response. If you look at a website that is called dataconstitution.com, that's basically we're summarizing our fight with the U.S. government in the courts, right? Because we want to make it very clear here. We will always follow the law, but it's also a blurred line in some cases. So we want to make it clear. In terms of email, you own your data. So if you want to ask this question, you have to, again, ownership and privacy. So we have a lot of responses there in that website to answer some of these big questions because of all this noise after the Snowden era, right? But transparency is absolutely critical. Now I put some links there, and I can talk, with all of these huge worldwide initiatives that we have, right? One of it is the Open Government Partnership, and I have two gents here that are basically pillars of this alliance. Jong in Korea, Steve, you're based in the U.S.? Steve in the U.S. These gents know that the discussions here are around open data, right? Around government partnering to share best practices on how do we do this, right? But it's also, there's another, so that's the government, and you have NGOs in the discussion, and also industry. Basically, that's where we work together with Dr. Zhang. So I think the question here around open data, big data, sharing information, I think it's no-brainer. I mean, this is happening as we speak. I think that the question for the governments now is when? When are we opening these data sets? When are you offering more information? When are we collaborating together? So this is a great forum. And if you want to see real examples, you have hundreds of examples per country. Well, per country, 10 to 12, right? Commitments where the government of Mexico is committing, this is the open data information I'm going to be sharing. These are the data sets. And not only that, because raw data sometimes will not help, again, unlock the power of data to empower to the citizen or the SME. So it's more than just a data set, right? It's hand-holding, in the case of the industry, it's hand-holding those SMEs, train them, use some tools, not only Microsoft tools, please, don't get me wrong. Any tool is great, right? So they can transform and see how they can mesh and leverage from that data set that is already there. Data.gov in the US has done fantastic things, showed us a lot of light, right, how to do this, but also shared us a lot of do not do this, right? Because, the information is already there, but probably there's not many people consuming the information. So why? What's the problem, right? So that sharing of information is so rich. So I encourage you to visit the Open Government Partnership. And the other two are ISOs, right? Yesterday we were having someone mentioned around the relevance of having these conversations on the right forums in terms of standardization, right? Which is absolutely important. And I think ISO is one of these forums where we should be discussing this. And we're actually discussing big data and all of these components. But in terms of all of these initiatives on the right have one component in common: transparency. All of them are looking to create more and more transparency in everything we do. 27018 is a set of controls, privacy controls for cloud service providers. So if I were a consumer or a bank, right, that I rely on a third party or on a cloud service provider, I would definitely ask that partner, how do you handle my information? So I will tick the box and say, hey, are you already 27018 compliant? No, I'm working on that. I'm 27001 compliant. Okay, 1, all right. Information security, fantastic. But that's the minimum now. So we have to educate more the consumer so that he can ask for this kind of relationships. The ISO 18091, which I mentioned yesterday, I make just a very quick comment. I added this slide. I didn't have it before. This is the first ISO that was created for government, for a government. Let me say that. I mean, that's a big word. Not even for, not just for cities. This is the first holistic approach to what is a government. Okay, we apply the 18091. We start bottoms up. That means that we start with cities, right? And we thread the public policies required from the local government up to the central government, probably passing through state or regional governments, right? You will say, why is this important? Because it has two effects. Let me talk a little bit about that. First effect is that if I want to know how I'm doing in a city, like a benchmark, there are hundreds of benchmarks outside. ITU, ISO 37120 is another one from Canada. I mean, there's plenty of benchmarks. But okay, you're telling me that I'm probably, good, bad, and ugly in my city, okay, in some areas. Okay, what do I do? Right? So if I have red indicators, think about this as a dashboard. This is a dashboard for 4 quadrants: economic development, social development, sustainable, and efficiency. Around 10 indicators per quadrant, right? So the idea of this ISO is that you have to be, if you want to become a reliable government with the citizen in the center, you have to be green in all 39 indicators. Green means a baseline. So I'm having discussions here in Singapore, for example, in the Philippines as we speak. And in the Singapore, probably you're not green, probably you're gold, right? To put it in words, right? But I want to see that you're gold in 39, in a holistic view. Because probably you're gold in a lot of these indicators. But if we want to build a transparent, reliable government, then we need to provide this information. Oh, that's a tricky one. Some governments will never probably show what's inside. But there are more and more governments that are showing how they are. This is a transparent mechanism. And which is beautiful is that the citizens now, and this is, I can share you some examples of Colombia, Bogota, for example, which I've seen is one of the best citizen observatories I've seen, at least in Latin America. They're using this as a mirror, right? So it's a framework to observe my citizen, my government. So if you apply this to a local government, fantastic. If you want to be transparent around how you are, it's up to you, or to the demand of the citizen, right? I want to know what you're doing in waste management, how you treat trash here. I want to see it. I want to give me evidence, right? So this gives the framework. Then if you have citizens and you map the framework, then you create a language between government and citizens. That's what we're trying, we're aiming to do that. Now, if you can imagine, this is an impressive dashboard. Underneath, how many data you think it is? It's how many sources of different information? It's incredible. So to have this in real time is quite a challenge. That's what we're trying to do. I mean, we haven't done it like 100% in one city, but the city of Barcelona is very well connected, and they have this governance framework since 5-6 years ago, and they're getting better and better, and they're getting the information in real time. Right. So I'm putting all of this, this is an example of how we see transparency from the government's angle, and also how do we see transparency from the citizens' angle. And since this was published just last year, of course you won't find that many references but if you are aware of how any standard is created in ISO, this had to be voted by 160 countries of the world, right? And it passed. So it seems that it has good traction. And as I mentioned, I mean, probably the benchmarks are good, but more important than a benchmark here is, what do I do if I have an issue or an area of opportunity or a red indicator? And it gives you a roadmap, right? What should I do to become, in that particular indicator, green or reliable? Probably you will ask me 39 indicators that it will apply in the world, everywhere in the world, in cities. It's not only 39 indicators, it's 250 sub-indicators that you can, I'm not gonna say you can pick. You cannot move these 39, but you can work on the sub-indicators, right? We apply this in one representative of the 16 regions of every region in the Philippines. We picked one city of those 16 regions. But we did this exercise, of course, with governments, but this exercise was done by the National Competitiveness Center in the Philippines, right? Because it's the citizens who are demanding, right? Is my city trustworthy? I mean, I need to know. They having elections next year, right? Guess what? They're gonna be using this. Is the government gonna be using it? I don't know. They have a very important initiative, all the way from the president down to cities. It's called Smarter Philippines. This is the governance model they're gonna use, hopefully. I don't know. Is the National Competitiveness Council gonna use this to verify candidates? Yes, they will. Candidates, right? So I want to see how your program aligns to the needs of my city, if you're a mayor or a governor, depending, right? So again, this is, I think, important, relevant for the conversation around, I mean, this is not technology. Technology is underneath. It's horizontal. We need it to provide this kind of information. All right. So this is basically the last slide, right? Again, as empowering citizens, powering SMEs, powering consumers. So is this easy? No, it's not easy. Of course not. I mean, we have to start thinking about creating this culture inside our organizations, right? Because we know that at the end it will bring actionable results, which you can call them data dividends. Yes. If you look at a little bit about how we measure things in the industry, it's return on investments, right? So data is money. Data is a new currency, definitely. So how do we create this good circle of collecting, transforming, visualizing inside the organization, and again, business questions, very important, critical, make the right questions to find the right problems. And at the end, it's not about an insight. It's what do I do with the insight, which is absolutely more relevant. Thank you very much.